This is one of the bikes you keep like this to get the sound. On my right is Zora Yusuf. Zora was with Masood for a very long time, and they were good friends. And she was able to observe him in the, I would say, the peak of his career. Rocky was Masood's boss at that stage, and Masood reported to him, and Rocky was one of the lists of people who I think supported Masood throughout his career, and I think that even after Rocky left, Masood was one of the people who tried desperately to stop him from leaving even after Rocky left. I think he himself could verify that Masood always, he was sentimental about this kind of support. You remember, Zora was with Spectrum. Spectrum was Masood's first employer. He serviced the Lakhani account. Masood neither forgot Shahid Ahmed nor did he forget the Lakhanis and the organization which he had serviced for Spectrum. Masood was a sentimental, difficult, sometimes impossible, impulsive, obstinate, loving, endearing, horrendously complex. He probably drove his family mad in the process, but the one unqualified thing one can say about him as a family man was, generally he was a husband who behaved on the margin, but he was actually a fabulous father. Now Tuba, who arranged this event today, still has problems dealing with his absence on one hand, but like Masood, she has a little bit of blood in her, and she wants to move forward and constantly do things. The difference between Masood and Tuba is that Masood loved books. You read the same book 25 times and very often get more books than you read. Zora reads books, but they still both have a passion for books, so it tells you the kind of complex contradiction which consisted of living with Masood. I've been asked to speak as the first person. I do believe that speaking should be an order of seniority, and therefore some of the weightier people follow me. What does it mean looking at Masood a year after his death? Well, we use the word death a little carefully. It is unfortunate that many people still believe today that perhaps Masood committed suicide because it appeared in the papers. That was a sponsored and false matter. Not that I'm speaking about the ethical debate of whether people commit suicide or not, but I'm absolutely clear in my mind that these things cause damage because of the non-verification. And even Tuba today, who knows the facts a little better, knows perhaps one thing, that Masood was shot dead for reasons beyond his control. When I say that, I refer particularly to the fact that the defense officers from the army who first came upon the scene and who know what ammunition is about, I'm not going to speak about Masood's death in detail, but I'm just putting these couple of facts forward. Clearly saw bullet empties, revolver empties do not come out of a revolver, and they were larger than revolver empties. They saw two up there at the edge of the car, which was never collected in the evidence. Secondly, there was a driver who saw part of the whole episode, and it was terribly clear what he described, and which is known to very few people, was virtually the same as a report that an American spiritualist provided. who never met Masood, down to the detail of the garments the people were wearing who approached the car. Yes, I believe Masood was murdered, unfortunately. But I'm also grateful to the police, and I think it was DIG Jamil who spearheaded the investigation. It was important that it did not become a tamasha and did not affect the sentiments of the family who were grieving at that point and still continue to live with the burden of what happened. But I think it's important, as Masood's friend, and of course as someone who was his employer, who also helped him pass the various grades of his career, I think it's important to put on record that on this first anniversary, we should now leave behind the rubbish of Masood having killed himself. It simply isn't true. I also know with full conviction that I'm one of the people who knew Masood best. Samad is here, everybody is here, Dr. is here. We discussed this matter several times and went into all the possible scenarios. It just didn't come out. If you really want to know what happened to Masood, he was a victim of the violence that had been perpetrated in the society for the last several years. And anonymous killings, unfortunately, don't have very rational scenarios. And he was cornered, I believe, and he reached out for a gun, but unfortunately, what he had in that gun does not resemble the empties that the army officers at first uncovered and never appeared as part of the evidence. This is not to investigate Masood's death, it's simply to say, let's do him the favor of remembering that this is a man who fell victim to the very society he was actually quite against. He was against the violence, he kind of admired Tuba, and he thought that she represented the kind of civic ideals he never had time to perpetrate himself. But then, sometimes with Masood, it was difficult to tell what was authentic and what was, he thought it was right, so he went along with it. But I think I didn't intend to speak about Masood's death. I was to speak about Masood's life, which I'll address a few comments on. But I did want to start by saying, even though at cost of pain to Tuba and Afshar, who were both my close friends, that it's not fair to have doubts about a man who fell a victim. Fine, we can't discover who killed him. Maybe one day we will. But he didn't go willingly. A man who reaches out for a gun to defend himself doesn't go willingly. So, and being Masood, the gun was an old gun which had been there for years and was a glove compartment. So how long to give two men who were aiming guns at you, as if the driver scenarios to believe he was driving by and never knew Masood? How long does it take to get hold of a gun and fire it, particularly if it's not able to fire? But of course, they got there first. He was a sensitive guy. Remember, he came from a society that was already in change. And many of the things he was interested in, he had not devoted himself to. He was passionately interested in Urdu poetry, Urdu love poetry. He was passionately interested in food. He was passionately interested in seafood. Sometimes he brought the worst kind of possible fish to his wife and asked her to cook it, because he insisted. Until one day I told him, why are you buying fish from the source? And he said, because I trust him, sir. I've been with him for many years. I said, I suggest you better try a little source. After which, I think Afshar began to smile a little more when she received her kitchen stores from him. He was the other legacy he leaves behind is he put together a fabulous team of people, and he's not here today, I think, but certainly Hassan and Hazafar and other boys who he developed are. I did not have a day of adjusting as a corporate head to his departure because the boys took up the task, and unlikely people who had their own corporations to run and their own businesses like Tawqir and Sarmad and Noman, they all moved in behind to reinforce Ali, Hazafar and Hassan and the boys. That, I think, is not a function only of the closeness between different segments of the media. It's a reflection of the quality of Masood's relationships with his friends. I think we all know that we miss him. He could be very, very tiresome. He would really be obstinate and insist on sticking to his point of view. He was quick to lose his temper. He was quick to get emotional, and he was quick to forget it. He had one unfortunate aspect. He had the younger generation to which he did not belong, but to which he had to belong. He had the view that he had the right to change his agenda happily in terms of his focus of interest every day as life went on. So that was Masood. I don't want to say anything else about him. And I will deliver this to Tawqi to make a few comments.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. I have good memories about Masood, and Hamid has spoken about the unfortunate circumstances that he passed away, so I won't touch on that at all. I had the good fortune of meeting Masood through my brother, Shabir, who is also here. Masood and Shabir were colleagues at Spectrum, and he introduced me to Masood Hamid the first time. After which he switched jobs and moved to Dawn and worked with me for a number of years. Thank you, ma'am. Worked with me for a number of years before I moved away, but we were very good friends, and he would come and talk to me about everything. His family, his personal relationships with his colleagues, his friends, and his passing away really surprised me, because a couple of days before he passed away, he called me to meet me. And he said he wanted to discuss something and just couldn't make it after that. So that is something that I feel will be unanswered. But I also feel that after a year of his passing away, a lot of his friends and family and colleagues, although they have healed a bit with time, time is the biggest healer, but his passing away has left such a void that you regularly think of him. That speaks volumes about the person that he was. His humor, which was fabulous. Jamal is sitting here, so is Noman. We've shared a lot of happy moments with him, with his humor. We've gone out a number of times together, and I have good memories of him. So I would like everyone here to remember him as a happy person, which he was happy. And you can understand a bit about the complex personality that Masood Hamid had, that one of his closest friends was Sarmat Ali, who was in the opposing camp in terms of the media, in terms of his professional competition. So he had this knack of taking people along and becoming very personal friends with anyone that he interacted with. That was a very unique quality that he had. Also, the fact that his colleagues, people who worked with him for 20 years, a lot of them, Ali is not here, he's gone for Umrah, but everyone who's worked with him, he's somehow touched their lives. And that is something which is again a very rare quality. I'm very proud that he was my colleague and a very close friend, and I wish that he's happy where he is. Or dua kar sakte hain. Thank you.
just before Zura begins, when Bobby mentioned that Ali's gone for Umrah, I thought I would share with you something that just came back to me. Masood went for Umrah with his family. And it was the strangest call I got from Makkah. Sir, I've just run twice for Auntie, my mother, who's now passed away. Please tell her, I'm running twice for my mother. I'm ringing up all my friends and asking how many times, how many people need me to run for them to do their umrahs. And I said, Masood, you realize that you're not as healthy or as athletic as you might have been? And he said, no sir, I mean, people here are amazed as to how healthy I am, and they wonder how I can do so many turns onto Zora.
And Hamid, I mean, it was just so typical of Masood to think of others all the time. I didn't get the chance to experience or see for myself all the characteristics that Hamid listed. But as you know, Masood's first job was at Spectrum. We were colleagues for not very long. And of course, we were deeply disappointed when he decided to leave Spectrum and join Dawn. But of course, I mean, it was for his own career and for Dawn itself, you know, the amazing business development that he did is something that I think the youngers should try and emulate. But apart from that, I think his contribution to the profession of the media organizations, the input that he gave to APNS and in developing the profession, I think in the long run the decision that he made was really very sort of useful for the profession as a whole. And as I said, while we were colleagues very briefly, but somehow I felt that, you know, we never continued to be in different organizations. Of course, my own association with Dawn, his association with Spectrum, that helped. But, you know, he was one of those that I could reach out for help whenever I needed. And it was mostly to do with free space in Dawn and later in other newspapers for the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan. I remember the first time he did a public service ad for Ajaz, for some issue or the other. I called up Hamid and he said, you know, of course, free space in Dawn. And he said, why are you calling me up? You should be talking to Masood. And from then on, whatever issue that we wanted to focus on, Masood made it possible for it to be printed not just in Dawn, but in other member publications of the APNS. And he would keep reporting to me that I've got so many newspapers agreeing to publish. And I remember there was one ad that we had done which was against the death penalty. And he had a tough time getting newspapers to accept that, because obviously it's a very unpopular cause opposing the death penalty in this country. But he did his best, and through his efforts, quite a few of the very conservative newspapers also published the ad. So that was Masood, and his professional life apart, I really don't know when he had time for his family, but he was very proud of them, particularly Tuba, I think. And she was a young student when he brought her to me and said, I want you to meet her because she's interested in the media and she wants to go into journalism. And I could see, the spark in her. I could, see her bright mind and the commitment, and I'm very happy to see her at Dawn today, and I do read her reports. She's really doing very well. And Masood's legacy, of course, his colleagues, it's for his colleagues to carry it forward. And I hope the younger lot that comes in would continue to learn from the colleagues he's left behind. Hamid had earlier talked about the violence in this city, and it's sad that exactly a week after Masood was killed, we lost Sabeen Mahmood, again the victim of violence in this city. So that is a tragedy that we face here, and one can only hope that we will be able to overcome that. Thank you.
While Zora was speaking, I just remembered another episode. How did I meet Masood? Well, I went to some seminar or something. It was probably at FTC and something about marketing. And obviously, Masood had been there. I didn't know Masood. I went to Spectrum for a visit. I went to show Shamul I had no hard feelings that Zora had been taken perhaps from me, and then Masood and Zora took me from room to room of the office, and then Masood introduced me to Shamul. Of course, I may be getting my chronologies between two different periods wrong, but essentially that was the story. So immediately Masood turned around to me and said, I was there at your seminar, and sir, I didn't agree with A, B, C, D. And I thought he was bright, very bright. So I asked Zora, is he bright? She said, yes, he's very bright. So I told him, Shanu, it's time for revenge. You don't mind. And that's how I met Masood. But the problem with Masood's memories is that they go on like that. Nothing ever makes complete sense. But if you sit down and spend an afternoon with Tuba, it does make sense.
You know, you make friends when you're in school, when you're in college. When you're in school, you're in college or university. And it's very rare that you make friends after leaving college or university. And that too, making a friend who is probably your fierce competitor. That was Masood Hamid. I still remember the first time I met him. In those days, I was not working for the Channel Group, I was working for Prestige Advertising, and there was some herald function at this Sheraton, and I was talking earlier, and Masood was talking. That's the first, I think it was December 1985 or something like that. That's the first time I met Masood. And then we became almost neighbors. And this time that my office was for 6 years next to his apartment. I bought it a year, which used to be in a beautiful building which has been brought down now, and some ugly apartment building complex is coming up here. And Masood used to live in the Prince complex, which was just next to us. And every evening I used to work pretty late, and every evening Masood used to come to the agency office, and we used to have cup chap and coffee and all of that. And I still remember, that before I had joined Channel Group, I was very confused. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to join Channel Group or not, and I had some other opportunities available. And you don't go and consult someone who would become your competitor maybe in a week's time. But I kept on going and following Masood, Askri, where I go, Askri and bothering him and trying to get advice from him and so on. उसके बाद हम कंपेटिटर्स हो गए. हमें आज तक याद है इतना मतलब झगड़ा हुआ हमारा. एक बार के 6 महीने हमारी बातचीत बंद हो गई. I was selling news, he was selling guns, obviously वो एक प्रॉब्लम था. तो 6 महीने हमारी बात बंद रही और उसके बाद भगवान यहाँ बैठे उन्होंने हमारी सुलह वगैरह कराई और उसके बाद दोबारा लड़ाई नहीं हुई. And then we became colleagues at APNS, and we worked together at APNS for I think something like 18 years, since 2000, so about 16 years. Masood representing the Dawn Group and I representing the Zen Group. And in fact, this was just 30th of March this year, was the first April election that I remember being conducted without Masood. And that day I gave him this and said, "Yeah, I wish he were there." Asal mein hame Masood, we should at least celebrate his life, rather than anything else, because he was so full of life. I've never seen someone that full of life, that इतना खुश आदमी, इतना मतलब लगता था कि जिंदगी भरपूर जो है ना उसके अंदर भरी हुई है. कोई काम हो, कोई प्रॉब्लम हो, कुछ हो, the first person that you used to talk to was Masood. It's very difficult to even think कि यार वो हमें नहीं है. At time that मेरा दिल चाहता है कि मैं फोन उठाऊं, उससे बात करूं, उससे मशवरा करूं, and you can't. And I think wherever he is, he's happy there, and I think he's looking down at us and hoping that we celebrate his life and remember him the way he was, a very happy-go-lucky type of a person. He was always smiling, was always trying to help people, and always going out of his day to help people. So wherever you are, Masood, you should look at us and see that all of us remember you and all of us miss you. Thank you.
Since Sarmad has spoken, it's time to relate an episode about Sarmad and Masood, which Sarmad doesn't really know and which only I could know. I've been working on Masood because I was very close to Sarmad even before he became Secretary General of APNS. But he used to be with us in Star when I was heading Star. So Sarmad and I go back a long way, even before I met Masood. And Masood liked Sarmad, but something in this competitive field would always come up in the beginning. And Masood was a little jealous of the fact that I was so fond of Sarmad. So he told me, "Sir, why do you believe so completely in Sarmad? He's a good professional, but he's a good guy, but he works for Jam." So I said, "Masood, you don't really know Sarmad." The first time I tried to put them together, Sarmad was quite happy to be with him, but Masood had his reservations. He couldn't get over the competitive factor. He was competitive. Then, all of a sudden, their relationship blossomed and they couldn't do without each other. I turned around him one day and said, "Masood, this is the same Sarmad. You told me, why am I so close to him? Now I ask you, why are you so close to Sarmad?" He said, "Sir, you were thinking of it as a professional. I was thinking of it as a person." As long as the answer sounded good, he thought he had won.
मसूद के लिए एक मैं शेर कहना चाहूँगा, which also is from a lot of people. किया बादलों में सफ़र जिंदगी भर, ज़मीं पे बनाया ना घर जिंदगी भर, सभी जिंदगी के मज़े लूटते हैं, हमें ना आया ये हुनर जिंदगी भर, मोहब्बत रही 4 दिन जिंदगी में, रहा 4 दिन का असर जिंदगी। तो मसूद के लिए हमारी तरफ से
I think this is also the time to acknowledge that many people believe not much was done to find out what lay behind Masood's murder. Please remember, as of today, all of you at least were sitting in this room. Unfortunately, it was a murder, not a suicide, as the police had first pronounced. But I think it's fair to say that we can now lift the curtain on this for about 40 to 45 days. Every day at my house, Masood's friends, particularly Sarmad, Wakil, Noman, there was another friend who was now in Bangkok, Hamid, and Ali and Hassan, and when he was there, Hazanfar. came every day, and every day we worked 15 to 20 hours. And we would minimize calling Tuba, never call up Sham. And of course, we drew a big blank. And when we went through all of Masood's records, the reason we drew a blank was it was a murder by persons unknown.
Okay, so I just want to share, everyone I'm assuming knows about my period obsession with the Hussein. So when I went to Chitral 2 years ago, I was in Kalash and there was no network for about 16 hours, I think. On the way back, I had 50 messages and one was how many missed calls from Baba. So he was trying to tell me that Rata Hussain had been arrested. So that was really funny. He was really upset that मुझे नहीं पता होगा मैं रो Yeah. If anyone else wants to say something.
Anyone wants to say something here? Maman?
Professor Hassan?
Professor?
उसके बाद Noman, then there's Noman here.
Yeah.
Noman is in. Which are we? And Imran. Imran was the other guy who was there all the time. Sorry, Imran. Memories fade when people get to my age.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. Most probably in APNS, I am the senior most member still serving and working. For us, for Masood Hamid, Taqir said a share. I wanted to add one more to it, and that is that most probably for each one of us, Masood is still living. He is not dead. And the share that goes to justify this is मर्ग जिंदगी का वक्फा है. Death is a rest for another life. मर्ग जिंदगी का वक्फा है, यानी आगे बढ़ेंगे दम लेकर. We will move forward after taking a bit of a rest. As a matter of fact, this is so true for Masood Hamid in particular, that as a matter of fact, he worked all through his life, and I have seen him as a constant shadow moving with Hamid. You couldn't do anything, you couldn't even sometimes meet Hamid unless you had the first touch with Masood Hamid. That was the love he had for me, and it was actually a kind of an exchange of love and affection that Hamid had for, and the confidence that Hamid had with Masood. My eldest son, Adnan Hassan, who works for the World Bank in Washington, D.C., whenever he was there in Washington, he made a point to meet Adnan. And when Adnan came here in Karachi, he used to be the connecting link between Adnan Hassan and me. Masood Hamid is a kind of a character in a whole drama of life that you cannot miss a minute as long as he is there on the stage. He is unforgettable. He was full of love, but at the same time, he was absolutely frank. He never told lies. He never actually felt shy in saying the truth, both in his professional career with Don and when he became the Secretary General of APNS. Therefore, my simple request should be that all of us must offer briefly a prayer for his being comfortable in the best of heaven that he is in today. Thank you very much.
السلام علیکم. First, in the limit of speaking Urdu, because probably that is how I can best express. اتنا اونچا. میں اردو میں بات کرنا چاہوں گا کیونکہ آپ نے اچانک کہا ہے کہ میں ایک اچانک واقعے کے اوپر کچھ کہہ سکوں. میں خوش قسمت ہوں کہ میں نے مسعود کے ساتھ کبھی کام نہیں کیا اور نہ ہی پروفیشنل کیپیسٹی میں اس طرح سے انٹریکٹ کیا. مسعود شروع سے آخر تک میرے دوست رہے. وہ میری زندگی میں کیسے آئے میں سوچتا ہوں مجھے بالکل یاد نہیں آتا کہ یہ آدمی میری زندگی میں کیسے داخل ہوا, کب داخل ہوا. لیکن جب وہ چلا گیا تو مجھے احساس ہوا کہ وہ کتنا اثر میرے اوپر چھوڑ کر گیا ہے. اور مجھے بالکل اچھا نہیں لگا کہ آج میں بیٹھ کے اس کی پہلی برسی پہ یہ ایڈمٹ کر رہا ہوں کہ وہ میرے ساتھ نہیں ہے, کیونکہ میں نے اس پچھلے 1 سال میں ایک دن بھی یہ محسوس نہیں کیا کہ وہ میرے ساتھ نہیں ہے. میرا اس کا جو تعلق تھا میں اس پہ بھی حیران ہوتا ہوں, ایک روحانی تعلق تھا. اور مسعود کی جو سب سے حیرت بات تھی کہ وہ جس زمانے میں فیس بک نہیں تھا اور موبائل فون نہیں تھا, اس زمانے میں بھی صبح 7:30 بجے مجھے فون کر کے کہتا تھا ہیپی برتھ ڈے, ہیپی اینیورسری. آج تو یہ بہت آسان ہے کیونکہ آپ فیس بک پہ موبائل پہ فیڈ کر لیتے ہیں, لیکن اس شخص کا کمال تھا کہ ان تمام گیلریز کے بغیر بھی وہ ان چیزوں کو یاد رکھتا تھا. اور میں ان چیزوں میں بہت برا ہوں, تو میں یہ سمجھتا ہوں کہ مسعود کے نزدیک سب سے اہم چیز انسانی رشتے, دوستی اور تعلقات تھے, جو اس نے ساری زندگی سب کے ساتھ نبھائے. اور اونچ نیچ تو ہر رشتے میں آتی ہے. سرور نے بھی کہا کہ میں نے مسعود اور سرور کی دوستی کرائی. مجھے یاد ہے کہ دوستی اس طرح ہوئی کہ میرے بڑے بیٹے کی سالگرہ تھی اور ان دونوں کی جنگ عروج پر تھی, اور میں نے دونوں کو فون کیا کہ میرے بیٹے کی سالگرہ ہے. سرور صاحب نے تو کچھ نہیں کہا, مسعود نے کہا وہ بھی آئے گا. میں نے کہا وہ کون؟ کہنے کہ وہ آپ کا دوست. میں نے کہا ظاہر ہے یا پھر میں نے کہا مسعود حامد آپ کی لڑائی کیجیے گا, یہ میرا گھر میرا بیٹا, آپ ضرور آئیے. آپ آئیں گے بالکل ایک دوسرے کو مجھے سلام کیجیے گا, ساتھ ہی بیٹھیے گا, لیکن آنا دونوں کو ہے. اور انہیں کوئی بات کیے بغیر اچھا ٹھیک ہے. تو ایک مسعود کی سب سے بڑی خوبی جو ہے نا وہ انسانی اقدار کی قدر تھی. اور میں ہمیشہ اس کو ایک ایسے شخص کے طور پہ یاد رکھوں گا کہ دوستوں کا دوست تھا, صافو تھا, خوش مزاج تھا اور زندگی سے بھرپور تھا. تھینک یو.
میں مسعود کی بات کروں گا. بہت چھوٹا گھر تھا, ہم ساتھ پڑھے ہیں, اپنے ساتھ کھیلا ہے کرکٹ, grew up together. مسعود شروع سے ایسا ہے. مسعود has never changed. پہلے بھی وہ کمیٹڈ تھا, رسپانسبل تھا اور دوستوں کا دوست تھا ہمیشہ سے. اور مجھے فخر ہے کہ میری مسعود سے دوستی رہی ہے. ٹھیک ہے, صبح یہاں بیٹھی ہیں, ہمارے سامنے پیدا ہوئی ہیں. مجھے مسعود حامد میرے ساتھ سے he just sort of gone somewhere. He's not there. To me he's there. We have been there, thick and thin, everything. مسعود گیا نہیں ہے. مسعود ہمارے ذہن میں he'll remain there. تو بیٹا کبھی بھی ضرورت ہو نا, you know where I am. اور کوئی بھی ہو, میری بھابھی پتہ نہیں مجھے نظر نہیں آ رہی ہے, بہرحال وہ بھی میں حاضر ہوں اس کے لیے نا. تو توقیر بھی ہیں بیٹھے ہوئے, میں نے توقیر سے بڑی ریکویسٹ کی تھی توقیر کچھ کرنا ہے نا. تھینک یو ویری مچ, آپ لوگوں نے بہت کچھ کیا. تھینکس ٹو یو سر, بہت کچھ کیا آپ لوگوں نے اس کے لیے. میری صرف ایک دعا ہے, God bless him and God be with him. Thank you very much.
حسن اکبر, آپ پہلے ڈاکٹر تنویر کو دے دیں.
یہ آگے کر, یہ
صاحب کے بعد حسن اکبر.
کہاں گیا حسن, بھاگ گیا وہ.
مسعود حامد سے کے بارے میں بات کی, بہت سے دوستوں نے بات کی ہے. نعمان صاحب نے جو کچھ کہا ہے بات پر میری سب کی فیلنگ کی ہے. مسعود حامد ایک ایسی شخصیت تھی جس کو اگر ہم چند لفظوں میں بیان کریں He was full of life, full of energy and full of love. ये 3 चीज़ें मसूद की ज़िंदगी का कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है, यही मसूद की पहचान थी और इसी पहचान की वजह से मसूद सबके दोस्त थे। मसूद में एक खामी थी, वो हमेशा जल्दी में रहते थे। जब APNS में मेरे साथ उन्होंने काफ़ी अच्छा काम किया, लेकिन 2 साल तो सेक्रेटरी जनरल भी हमारे रहे, आते थे, बैठते थे, जोक्स, शायरी, काम, और उसके बाद अचानक मैं जाता हूँ और उसके बाद वो आए। इतनी जल्दी चले जाते थे, और इसी एक काम उन्होंने अपनी ज़िंदगी में भी किया और वो बहुत जल्दी चले गए। हम सब उसको मिस करते हैं और 31 बार पिछले साल हमारे साथ थे, आज इस साल नहीं थे। सब दोस्तों ने उसको रुका, इसके हम बड़ी में मिस किया और आज मिस कर, मैं उसके लिए दुआ कर सकता हूँ।
जी कोई और कुछ तारीफ करीम का?
मेरा नाम तारिक करीम, मसूद से फर्स्ट मसूद through Marketing Association of Pakistan. I'm the president of NAP, but unfortunately Masood is not with us. And that's how we became friends at that time. And I still remember Masood telling me that Dawn has a great collection of photographs of old Karachi, and we should display that for youngsters at our campus. I'm a CBM, Institute of Business Management, and we had a display of these beautiful photographs at our campus through Masood. I'll just give you one, and then we became friends because our children were friends. My daughter was with Asad in school, and then she's in Canada. Asad is also in Canada, also different cities. But I remember one incident, and I'm giving you a point of view of a teenager. Asad got ill 2 years ago, and Masood, I talked to Masood, and he decided to go and be with his son. And he flew to Vancouver, and he was there for a few days, and he met my daughter there. And this is a point of view of a teenager, a 19-year-old girl. And she said that I was with Masood uncle for a few hours, and it was like a history that we spent time, and he talked about everything, and he had so much knowledge of things around him. And he said that, "Beta, you don't know this, but I know your family for the last 50 years. And some or the other, he knew my father for a very long time. And he said that I know your grandfather, I know your father." And then she said that those 2 or 3 hours that I spent with Masood's uncle was something that I can never forget. And that is something which Masood used to leave in everyone's mind, that as a friend, as even with youngsters, that he made that impression on everyone. And we miss Masood. I think he was there for all of us, and I think the few years that I was able to get to know him, I think that's part of a very good memory, and we can all pray for his divine soul. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Tellis. I've been associated with Aurora and Dawn for some years as a writer. First started as writing letters of criticism or suggestions to Dawn, and then Mariam, who's sitting here, has published my articles. I had very few meetings with Masood, but I haven't shared hours with him, but I did share a bowl of fresh mints with him at the Dawn Aurora conference in 2010. So it was a very strange phenomenon, because I was the media planner, read, and we were organizing the function. So I walked in late, I missed Hamid Arun Saab's opening speech because I was busy packing the gifts. Then I sat down and there was an empty seat. And suddenly Masood Hamid, the marketing director of Dawn, comes and sits over there and says, pass the freshmen, let's have some. So this was Masood in a nutshell. And this was the way he was. I had limited interactions with him over the years. But he never had any airs of graces. He was very approachable. I remember in 2008 when I was looking for a job, he actually phoned me to tell me there was a vacancy. So can you imagine a marketing director of one of the most elite papers in the country phoning a young, lowly media planner? So that was Masood, that was the way he was. I had the great pleasure to meet him again after many years at the DPAP function in 2014. So it was just a few seconds and he was there and he spread that spark. So yes, we should celebrate his life, we should pray for him, but we should also be like him and emulate that sort of joy de vivre and the sort of openness and altruism that he was. Thank you.
Shabir, last speaker, Shabir.
My name is Ijaz. Once or two times I met Masood's wife, his professional life. खालिद शरीफ साहब का एक एज ए ट्रिब्यूट मैं उनके आज के इस हवाले से नाम करता हूँ. मेरे बड़े अच्छे दोस्त हैं खालिद शरीफ साहब और बड़े शायर हैं. तो एक आज के हवाले से मुझे जुड़ना है कि पिछड़ा कुछ इस तरह से कि रुत ही बदल गई. पिछड़ा कुछ इस तरह से कि रुत ही बदल गई. एक शख्स सारे शहर को उदास कर दिया.
My name is Rashad Mahmood and I was 4 years junior to Hamid's Hamid Saab in the Nabi Public School. And I can vouch for that कि Masood Hamid Saab जैसे लोग जो हैं वो for life आपकी inspiration होते हैं. When we were at school, you know, 4 years, just 4 years junior to him. लेकिन I can tell you that we were just pygmies and they were warriors, these people. Afandi, Agha Bakhtiar, Dara Bashir, Masood Hamid, Hussaina Bandook Wala, they were larger than life people. इन लोगों से मुतासिर हुए बगैर इंसान रह नहीं सकता. Great students, fantastic swimmers, debaters, athletes, and born with the leadership quality. इतना inspire किया उन्होंने, and they were people who made impact on the whole society. I can quote you a very amusing incident at the Nabi Public School when it used to be a 9 to 5 school at that time, and quite a memorable today. So उसमें 1 बजे से 2:30 बजे तक एक लंच आवर होता था, and उसमें हफ्ते में एक दिन एक दाचा पकता था, and Masood साहब was absolutely crazy about that dacha, and we were just allowed to take it just once, every student. And then he that day एक दिन ये हुआ कि वो दाचा पक्का था and he got under the table और पूरी जो पतीली थी वो उन्होंने खत्म कर दी थी, और उसमें finally that when that पतीली was picked up and able to distribute with the students, it was just empty. And then कुर्बान जाफरी साहब, who was one of our teachers, उन्होंने कान पकड़ के मसूद साहब का लाया, उन्होंने कहा खत्म कर दिए, आज का खाना और बेहतर नहीं है. So I mean, you know, always inspiring and such a great personality, and as everyone said, बिल्कुल किसी तरह नहीं लगता कि वो चले गए. हर रोज लगता है कि हमारे साथ कहीं से निकल आएंगे और अपना पेट पूरा कहेंगे मेरे दोस्त.
मैं उर्दू में ही बोलूँगा. मसूद हामिद से मेरी पहली मुलाकात जब वो इंटरव्यू देने आए थे एमएनडी में, जो उनका हुलिया था माशाल्लाह से फटी हुई जीन्स थी और कैनवस के शूज को पहने हुए थे इंटरव्यू के लिए. मैंने मसूद से पूछा इंटरव्यू के लिए आए हैं या मॉडलिंग के लिए? तो उन्होंने पूछा सर क्यों, क्या हुआ? मैं मुझे तो नहीं लग रहा आप काम करने के मूड से आए हैं. कुछ दिन गुजर गए, मैं स्पेक्ट्रम चला दिया तो मसूद हामिद वहाँ मुझे नजर आए. उन्होंने कहा सर आपने पहचाना नहीं मुझे? मैंने कहा नहीं पहचाना नहीं. जो उस वक्त वो टाई और पैंट शर्ट में थे. मैं कहा मसूद हामिद. अच्छा मैं कहा मसूद हामिद आप जरा बात भी याद नहीं कि मैं मेंजे में आया था आपके पास, आपने मुझे रिजेक्ट कर दिया। तो दैट इज द फर्स्ट टाइम दैट वी इंटरैक्टेड। फिर उसके बाद मसूद हामिद को मैं गुलशन छोड़ता था, बाद कई बार वो अफशा बेहतर समझती है क्यों छोड़ता था। तो जब उनको मैं डिटेल करता था कि काम है, इधर से आप जाने थे मुझे ट्यूशन पढ़ाना है, तो वो ट्यूशन पढ़ाते पढ़ाते कुछ और पढ़ बैठे उनके साथ। और वो दिन और आज का दिन मसूद हामिद माशाल्लाह, a man I will never forget. A great experience and I wish him wherever he is. That's right.
2 minutes. This is going to Sharmila.
Yeah.
Can I get that, please? Sure.
Well, I just have one thing to say about Masood. There's no one like him. I mean, I've never met a person who is always there for everyone, all the time. I mean, he was one person who you could just pick up a phone and ask for advice, and he would be right there for you, giving you the right advice, always wanting to be there. And it was just not for me or for Sarma or for so many people who have spoken so highly about him. He was there for everybody, and he was there all the time. Tremendous sense of humor, always full of life, always wanting to do something new, always hilarious. And the best part was that he was so friendly with all his competitors. I mean, he put me through Sarma, he put me through Qazi Aslamangal, he put me through so many people, Ejaz from Tribune, and I remember, I'm sure, Sarma, you miss our monthly, bi-monthly dinners that we used to have. So the high point of my career with him and my professional relationship with him was that one day he comes to me and he says, you should be meeting Sarma, then you should be meeting Ejaz, then you should be meeting Qazi Aslam. And I was the information minister, and I was like, who are these people? And of course I knew Sarma because my dad knew him. So he said, you need to know them on a personal basis. And I said, then how do I do that? I'm a woman and they are men. He said, okay, let me arrange a dinner. And from then onwards, ये सिलसिला शुरू हुआ और हर दूसरे तीसरे महीने Masood was called, Sharmila, वो dinner करें? And I would say, हाँ, करो. And then he would choose the venue, and then he would make me call everybody, and then we would have dinner. And constantly at the dinner, Sarma and Masood would be bickering at each other, passing commands, and it used to be hilarious. I mean, we would want to meet for an hour or so, but I think the dinner would go on for 3 hours plus. It was wonderful. And my first interaction with Masood was when I was the information minister. The first letter that I received after taking charge was, from Masood Hamid as marketing head of Dawn to visit the Dawn Lifestyle Expo at Expo Center. And when I go there, I don't find Masood. I don't find a marketing head to receive me. And I tell my staff, कैसे लोग हैं भाई, invite करके मुझे, and they are not there to receive me. And what happened was that I came from the front door, and Masood thought I'm coming from the other door, and then I went to the other door, and Masood came to the front door, and we went round and round the circle, round and round. I went through the entire Lifestyle Expo, and he went again, and by the time I was about to sit in my car and leave, I finally find Masood, and he said, oh hello, I'm the marketing head, Masood Hamid. He said, thank you very much, I'm leaving now. So that was my first interaction with him, and I was new, I was young, I was heading a bunch of crazy bureaucrats. So when I was, Masood kind of realized that, and one day he just walks into my office, and I thought he's come, to ask for advertisement for Dawn. And he said, I need to advise you. And I looked at him and I said, how does he think I would want to take advice from him? So, and he just started talking, and he said, you should meet the APNS, and you should do this, and you should interact with them. And I kind of found that something very enduring. Like the people who, and I thought he'd come to ask me for advertisements. And my entire time when I was in information, never once did Masood ask me for advertisement for them. Never once. Never once. I knew for a very, very short time, unfortunately, he just left us from 2010 to 2015, 5 years. और उन 5 सालों में मसूद ने मुझसे कभी किसी काम के लिए नहीं कहा, कभी किसी काम के लिए नहीं कहा, never. He would always call me to advise me, or I would call him to advise. Masood, मैं क्या करूँ? What should I do? इसका नंबर दे दो, उसका नंबर दे दो, ये कर दो, वो कर दो. He was always there, and then I think a couple of times that he himself called me was talk about his daughter. Oh, you know, Dubai is, he's joined Tribune, and I'm going to see my son in Canada, and he used to be very, very excited. He talked very fondly about it. But really, if you just, sum up Masood's life and his interaction with his friends and colleagues, it's just so appropriately said there. He was the kind of friend you want in your hour of need. And the best part was he would always be there for you. And a life, very short life, but I think he just lived a full life. He lived a complete life. And even now when I think about him, when I need some advice, and there are very few people in your life where कि आप advice मांगेंगे तो वो आपको सही advice देंगे, गलत advice नहीं देंगे, कोई मतलब नहीं होगा उनके पीछे. And I still have this urge to pick up my phone and call him and ask him, so what should I do now? What should I do? How should I go about it? And I still remember, he was like raise his eyebrows, 3 lines in, and ये तो आप कर लें, आप कर लें. This is how we talk. आपको करना पड़ेगा. अगर आप रहना चाहते हैं सियासत में. So he would always tell me this. And it's wonderful. And when I used to call up Hamid uncle, and Hamid uncle wouldn't pick up my phone, I would call Masood, Hamid uncle ने phone उठाया. अच्छा, okay, ठहरो, मैं बात करवाता हूँ. And then he would call me back. He's busy somewhere. मैं बात करवा दूँगा, तुम फिक्र ना करना. So this was the kind of person who would, always be there for you. Last time I met Masood was when his mother passed away at the house, and he was very upset, of course. And then a couple of days later, I told him, I said, Masood, I think we should have a dinner again. He said, हाँ, करते हैं, मुझे थोड़ा time दो, and I lined it up. सरवत से बात करो, उससे करो, but he just went away. So, but I'll always remember him so fondly. Will always miss him. There can be no one like this. No one.
Before the last couple of people speak, I'd like to give you a Masood joke. Because no evening would be complete without a Masood joke. Masood was normally committed to too many people at the same time. So he had to do the constant juggling act where he would try to keep everybody happy and says, oh sir, I'm here, I promised, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going to this. So one day at 7:45 in the morning I called him. And I said, Masood, where are you? So he said, sir, you know me, I have to keep my health, I'm at the health club, I'm moving weights, etc. I said, which health club are you going? So he says, sir, I'm at the PC, I'm going these days to the PC. He shifted health clubs and for that. I said, right, Masood. You're at the PC, you said. He said, yes, sir. I said, walk outside your door and tell me what's happening. So he said, okay, sir. You never show any reaction. You go and do exactly that. So he walked outside the door, presumably. And he said, sir, everything's normal up here. I said, now walk outside. The door comes out in the pool. I said, now walk outside the pool side, into the entrance of the PC, and tell me what's happening there. He says, nothing. Here I am. Everything's normal. I said, Masood, you are not at the PC. There's just been a huge bomb blast, and the car which had the bomb is sitting in the tree outside. So you are not in the PC. He said, no sir, actually I had some work to do, and I'll be in the office in 5 minutes. That was Masood. But I think Rima is here. Try and ensure that Rima speaks. She was very close to Masood, and a couple of other people up here want to speak. Rima and then Sohail.
So speaking of bomb blasts, there was a blast near our history house, right outside the Saudi embassy. And I was like, oh my god, blast where will jana hai? So I called him up, and he came to pick me up. He used to wear this Japan nighty thing to bed, right? So he came to pick me up in that, and we went to the Saudi consulate. And we were actually sitting there, गाड़ी में मेरा wait कर रही थी. He's like, I can't come out of that, but he waited till I took photos send it to Tribune, the website and everything, and then we came on. Is that for sure?
Salvi's going to talk about one of them.
Salman Hassan. When the proceedings began, Zora mentioned that it was a devastating week in which there were two murders. One was Sabi Mahmood and the other was Masood Hamid. I wrote a memorial for both of these people, and I wrote the memorial after attending the memorial service at APNS House. Some of his friends who spoke there are not here today, and I want to take just a minute to read the words and thoughts of Ali Hassan Naqvi and his friend Hamid Mahmood from the article that I wrote, so that you can share his words and thoughts now from the APNS memorial meeting. Here is what Hamid Mahmood remembered his friend Masood Hamid. Filled with emotion from the loss of his old friend, Mr. Hamid Mahmood described the large heartedness and affection of Masood Hamid. Masood Hamid served as an informal mentor and advisor for the foreign higher education of his daughter. Mr. Hamid Mahmood remembered that Masood Hamid was full of encouragement and advised his daughter to call Masood Hamid's daughter Tuba when she missed home overseas. You can confirm that. Mr. Salman Ali recalled his old friendship with Masood Hamid from the time they were neighbors and would enjoy conversations in the neighborhood park.
From the time they went to Noman's house.
As their professional careers progressed, sometimes involving professional rivalry, Masood Hamid always gave respect and importance to their old friendship. Just another few sentences. The longest and most detailed memorial speech from Dawn Media Group was by Mr. Ali Hassan Naqvi. He described the story of his first meeting with Mr. Masood Hamid as a candidate for a position in the marketing department of Dawn. Mr. Ali Hassan Naqvi had resigned from a teaching position at an educational institution and was searching for his next job. Mr. Masood Hamid hired him and over the years taught professional skills and good values for living life with dignity, pride, and self-respect. Ms. Nilofar also remembered, Ms. Nilofar from Dawn Media Group said that Masood Hamid was talented enough to sell a refrigerator to an Eskimo. Okay. Finally, I wrote down the words of Mr. Hamid Haroon, who said, Mr. Hamid Haroon also described Mr. Masood Hamid's love for children. He recollected Mr. Masood Hamid's surprise visit to a Murray market to buy an armload of toys for the children of the sister of a Dawn employee. True to his principles, Masood Hamid never recommended his daughter Tuba to Dawn as a journalist. She was hired by the editorial staff of Dawn. So these are some of the thoughts and words of people, some of whom are here today, and some of whom, like Mr. Hamid Mahmood and Mr. Ali Hassan Naqvi, are not here today. I wanted to share their thoughts with you in this way. Thank you.
Rima, take the mic.
Hi. My name is Sanam Noor, and most of you wouldn't know who I am. Just to tell you the kind of friendship Masood Sahab had. I had a very unconventional friendship with Masood Sahab. This friendship was kind of based on this desire to save humanity. I worked as a volunteer for this patients group. It is a rare disease called Wilson's disease, and in 2005 I saw an appeal which was published in Dawn newspaper for donation of liver tissue, and then I called up the number which was mentioned because my nephew and nieces, they have this disease. So I called, and it was Masood Sahab's uncle who picked up the phone, and then the uncle, he asked Masood Sahab to visit me and discuss with me what are the possibilities for the treatment of the child, whose name was Zan, and Masood Sahab's wife also visited me, and since then this friendship started, and then whenever there was a patient, I tried to help from all over the Pakistan. Like I have so far helped some 40-50 patients who needed like not just help but also guidance. Even 1 month before Masood Sahab was murdered, there was a girl from Karachi, Sabah Tariq. She needed to be taken to India for her treatment, but the family did not have the means to go there. And Masood Sahab, when I sent him by email the picture of the child who was in a very bad shape, he said that he will do anything possible to save this girl, and he asked me to send all the medical reports and all the details of the case, and he promised me that he would help her. And the day I sent the documents to him, I was calling him and there was no response, and it was the same day last year. So I lost not just a friend but a person who was working for me on this cause. So it's a huge loss, not just for me but the patients that I've been helping.
Thank you. I really request everyone to put their phones on silent to disturb the recording.
Assalamualaikum, I am from his department marketing, Nissan Raza. बातें तो इतनी सारी हैं कि जितनी की जाए कभी ख़त्म ही नहीं हो सकती। मुझे सिर्फ एक वाक़या भी याद आया है। मैं मुहर्रम के अंदर 10 मुहर्रम को एट टाइम ऑफ ब्लास्ट उस जगह पर मौजूद था और मैं एक्टिविटीज़ में स्काउट्स के साथ रहता हूँ। तो मुझे सबसे पहली कॉल आफ्टर ब्लास्ट मसूद साहब से आई थी। ना मेरे घर से नहीं आई थी, मेरी वालदा की नहीं थी। सबसे पहली जो कॉल बनी थी मेरे फ़ोन के ऊपर वो मसूद हामिद साहब की थी। ये 2010 आशुरा ऑफ लास्ट हुआ था उसमें, और ही से हेलो, मैंने से अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर, ठीक है ओके मैंने फिर दोबारा जब उनसे मुलाकात की मैंने कहा बस ठीक है, आवाज़ आ गई, जिंदा हो गई। वो ऐसी शख्सियत हैं कि जिनको हम कभी भुला नहीं सकते। वो सबको याद रखते थे, उनको उनके दिल में, उनके दिमाग में, हम अपने मोबाइल में सेव करते हैं सबकी बर्थडे, वो ज़बानी याद रखते थे।
Typical Masood line on me, it happens with everyone. Have you called your mother? It's her birthday today. Have you called your
I can beat that. He used to call me, say, "Beta, are you okay?" That's it.
Hello everyone. So I don't know where to start because there was so much to Masood Hamid Sahab, who I affectionately refer to as Guruji, because that's who he was. A tremendous guy, a very, very supportive friend, not just to me but to so many people, and he filled so many lives with meaning. And we people find their journeys, their paths, and comfort in so many ways. When I think of him, the sound that comes to mind is him always clearing his throat and then bursting into this laughter that would fill the entire room. And after some joke, which was quite often a little off color, and he would choose the audience for each joke, and it was a pleasure to be in his company. And I think one will always remember that laugh and that his memory for jokes and all the birthdays and all the stories that he used to accumulate in one day and then narrate the next day. And yes, I wish his children and Mrs. Hamid a wonderful, wonderful life and a lot of strength and peace, and to all everyone gathered here who love him really. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sohaib? Yeah, Sohaib, please.
I thought I would speak because Benedict at the office there and people were asking me anybody, but sometimes you don't have the words to say, and sometimes you feel the best thing you can do to your friends normally is to just remember him personally and directly. Just 2-3 things. I think we should laugh at the memory of Masood because he made us all laugh, and Hamid साहब ने भी किस्सा बताया. 5 मिनट बाद वो किस्सा मेरे साथ हुआ. Masood साहब ने जब मुझसे पूछा, where are you, and eventually Hamid साहब ने मुझसे पूछा, and Hamid साहब ने जब वो बताया, I remember I got a call about 8 o'clock. Where are you? I said, at home. He said, don't you know what's happened? I said, no. He said, yeah, you're a cricket writer, you should know. There's been a blast outside PC, everybody knows about it. Today I hear the real story from Hamid sir. But you know why he called me? He said, get to the PC, you can get some breaking news there. He knew I was just a writer, just a columnist, not a journalist. But the reason he called me was, get there. शायद तुम्हारी कोई स्टोरी है and you can write an article. Otherwise, why would he call me? And another thing मैं आपको बताऊँ कि I don't know how many people know here. Masood actually, the reason I met Masood, or rather Masood met me and came into my life, one of God's greatest gifts I would say, is I was at university and he walked up to me and मेरा cousin था, उसका दोस्त था वो, Zoe Ashraf था. And he said, you're Sohaib Abdi, you write on cricket. मैंने उस वक्त 3-4 आर्टिकल लिखे थे क्रिकेटर में. I said yes. He said, we're writing a book on cricket. We want you to write a foreword. I said okay. And you know, I'll tell you something. I don't know how many people of you know that in 1982, out of his own money, he and Abid Ali Qazi wrote a book where they compiled each and every scorecard of Pakistan's test match. He paid for it out of his own pocket. Although he was, I don't know, maybe he was at Spectrum at the time, I don't know, but उससे पहले. And he was at the Neymar apartments, I think, वहाँ पे रहते थे Gulshan में, and he invited me in the night, and Abid and him was staying there. And he said he had been to India, traveled again on his own money to get the scorecards of the 1952 series and the 1966. That's how passionate he was about everything that he did. And I mean, I can, कोई ऐसी बात मैं ऐसी नहीं कह सकता जो आप लोगों ने शेयर नहीं की हो, उसी तरह के किस्से मेरे साथ हुए हैं. We had code words that I would pick up the phone and he would, you know, speak a word that was a code for us as to what was going on. And but you know, one of God's greatest gifts that He has given me is that Masood's son, Asad, and my son, Fahad, I think was here somewhere tonight, in this room, I think, came into the same class, class 1. They've been together now for about 14, 15 years. They're a core group. They travel together, they eat together till Asad went to Canada. They trekked together across Pakistan. And though it was very difficult to catch hold of Masood, because I was not in the industry, so I would hardly get in touch with him. But every time Asad used to walk in and I used to say, I used to look as if, oh boy, Masood has walked into my house. And I used to say, किधर है आज वो? अर्जेंटीना में है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में? कहता नहीं बाबा आज कनाडा में. Because that he was always travel. So I think one of the greatest gifts was that I would always think that when my son Fahad wanted to go into media, and I would think that, you know, if I were to die, I know Masood would take care of him. You know, today he is not here, and it's amazing that it has transpired. Obviously, Fahad is very close to Tuba, and I know Tuba will take care of Fahad. You know, and let me tell you one last thing. Masood called me about January 2011, 10 days before the World Cup was to start, and he said, "Kya kar rahe ho?" I said, "Kuch nahi." He said, "You want to write a book on cricket?" I said, "Masood, it's very difficult for me to write about it." He said, "No, no. तुम 1 घंटे में पहुंचो तो ऑफिस के ऑफिस. 10 days left for the World Cup. He put us together. We came out with a pictorial book in 10 days. And I couldn't believe that I'd actually done that. But उससे एक सबक निकलता है जो I think हम सबको पता है. After that, I ended up writing 2 more books with Dr. Masood actually saw in you what you couldn't see in yourself. Masood made you believe in you more than you could believe in yourself, and he could bring out the best in you. And I think he saw in a person more than the person saw in himself. And I think that's one of his greatest gifts that he could give to his friends and everyone whose paths he crossed even once. And God bless him and his family, and I'm trying to do by myself.
अगर मैं किस्सा सुना दूँ उसके बाद में फिर हमारे दोस्त हैं कासिम भाई साहब से रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कुछ बात करें. 5-6 साल पहले Masood went to Germany with 2 of my colleagues, Sadia Sharif and Usman Rizvi. अच्छा, आप लोग वहाँ शॉपिंग वॉपिंग इकट्ठे करते रहे. जब शॉपिंग करें जितने शॉपिंग बैग्स हैं Masood उठाने और साथ वो हैं छोटे बैग वाले के दोस्त बैग्स. मतलब उनको आदत नहीं थी इसके साथ करने की, क्योंकि जब मैं शॉपिंग करता था तो मैं अपने बैग को उठा देता था कि भाई और उसके बाद Masood उनकी दोनों की फ्लाइट थी सुबह 7:30-8 बजे और Masood की फ्लाइट थी शाम को. वो ट्रेन में जाना था पहले एयरपोर्ट और वहाँ से फिर चेंज करना था. Masood went with both of them to the airport in the morning. कौन सुबह 6 बजे उठता है जाके किसी को छोड़ने के लिए. Went to the airport to drop them. उन्होंने कहा नहीं तुम अकेले नहीं जाओगी, मैं तुम लोगों को छोड़ के आऊँगा. मैं गया तो उसने शाम की फ्लाइट थी. फिर बाद में वापस कराची आके लोगों ने मुझे बहुत ताने दिए कि आप हमें तो आपके बैग पकड़ने पड़ते हैं. तो वो मैंने कहा Masood यार तुम आदतें खराब कर देते हो लोगों की, ये तुम्हें नहीं करना चाहिए था. कासिम रवानी साहब हमारे बहुत ही दोनों के कॉमन दोस्त हैं. मैं रिक्वेस्ट कासिम से a few words.
Take this one. ये ले लो कासिम.
Assalamualaikum everybody. Many moons ago, which was somewhere in the beginning of 1990, I was working for a company called Elstaford. And through the kind courtesies of my friend Sarmadari, Masood Hamid was introduced to me. The intent was to do a supplement for cellular. And that was one of the most awesome experiences that I've ever had. Masood and I spent about 2 weeks working on that supplement. And if I recall correctly, within Saatchi, which was our advertising agency, that supplement won the Best Supplement Award within the Saatchi network. The most memorable part of that was that the night before the supplement was to come out, I was to leave for London. And Masood and I sat till about 2 in the morning working on the supplement. Suhail Kisat, Masood and myself. And then I took off for the airport and Masood went back and got the supplement out the next morning. Subsequently, Masood and I became very good friends. We kept meeting, we used to be regularly in touch. I then took off to Canada in 2009. Masood made it a point to remain in touch. And every time I'd come down to Karachi, he'd make it a point to collect all of us and get us together. And last time before I met him, or shortly before I met him, he came down to Canada. And there was this Canadian-Pakistan Business Council meeting. And as usual, I walked in, ambled in late. So Masood was in the middle of the conversation, giving his introduction. He stopped, he looked at me, and he said, "Welcome, Mr. Rabani." And then he introduced me to the entire, or told the entire audience how he and I knew each other and what our relationship was. He then spent the whole afternoon with me, and it was one of the most memorable afternoons that we had. We went out for dinner, and then his younger brother came and took him away from me. That probably was one of the best days and I didn't meet Masood after that. Or did I? Tuba?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Asad was with Masood, and we had such a wonderful time. But Masood was one of the nicest people you could come, ever forthcoming, ever willing to help, and I don't think the word no was ever in his dictionary, at least not with me. And I have wonderful memories of a wonderful person. May he enjoy himself over there, wherever he is, as much as he did here. And may Allah bless his soul. Thank you.
One more Masoodism I just remembered. Masood in London wearing sneakers, jeans, tight
I
t-shirt,
think you're forgetting the skinny jeans.
skinny jeans, and not quite so young as he used to be. So I said, "Masood, why are you dressed like this? Don't you notice you're giving the tuba?" Her friends will turn around and say, "What is your father, a freak or something?" So he said, "Sir, it's becoming embarrassing for tuba. All her colleagues think that I am her fellow student."
We printed out some posters and postcards for Baba. They're 50 rupees. Aisha is manning the little table right behind you. So buy them. Thanks.
Thank you everyone for being here, and आप लोगों का टाइम मसूद के साथ गुजरा, बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you everyone.